Hello, my fellow heretics. Thank you so much for tuning into the inaugural episode of Devil's Divination. Putting this out in the world has been heavy on my mind for a really long time, and I am finally going to just do it today. It's actually my birthday, the day that I'm recording this. It's May 8th, also a Friday, ruled by Venus. As a Taurus, that resonates with me. And for my birthday, I am giving myself the gift of getting out of my own way and conquering my aversion to being a little bit more forward facing. So, if you're familiar with me, it's unlikely that it's through tarot. You probably know me as a pole and erotic dancer, but tarot has been a part of my life for a very long time. I have been reading professionally for several years, but I've never really had an internet presence as a tarot reader, and I wanted to have a separate channel where I just read and talk about tarot. So you found it. Thank you again for being here, especially if you have no interest in tarot and you just follow me and kind of want to know what I'm up to. I really appreciate your general curiosity. I also wanted this to be a place where I get to show off some of the cool shit I wear selfishly. In this Satanist professional life, generally speaking, the devil wears nada, but I have a lot of cool stuff that I like to wear, and I have an opportunity to show it to you here. This is my first video editing project. If you know me, I am a total Luddite, so bear with me. I am going to try to build my knowledge of this and watch it grow and hopefully make it look a little bit more professional over time, but right now, I'm not going to let not having everything get in the way. I just have to put it out. So first, why did I name this series Devil's Divination other than the fact that it sounds cool and I'm a little bit of an alliteration aficionado? Well, to most modern Satanists, we are self-theistic, and in the grandiose sense of that term, it means more or less that we are the god of our lives and we accept responsibility accordingly. Oftentimes, when you hear the word divination, we think like fortune telling, and I think that can often feel like it's predicting stuff that is just going to happen to us. And yes, life does happen to us in ways that we are not necessarily willing or that we are at fault for, but the way that we respond to it is ours to write. The patterns that we perpetuate tend to flesh out the scenarios that we find ourselves in. Not always, but often. If you are a freelancer and you're always putting yourself out there, you're probably getting booked a little bit more. If you are a recluse and you're not really reaching out to any of your friends, you're probably not seeing them very much. These are, of course, light examples, but examples nonetheless. Devil's divination means writing the future, not just letting it simply happen to us. Life will happen to us sometimes. Divination through the devil's lens will turn the attention back onto you and ask, what do we do with this? What can we do with what we've been given? A disclaimer real quick. Misfortune falls on all of us through no fault of our own. Death, abuse, loss, these are not things that we manifested, and I will never imply otherwise. I never intend to imply otherwise. And in fact, you'll probably never hear me say the word manifest here ever. It's not really part of my vocabulary when it comes to reading. So if you are tarot curious, but you consider yourself a little bit of a skeptic and you're sort of sick of hearing a lot of these buzzwords like I am, I do believe you're in a safe place. So that's number one. Number two, I also acknowledge that we are not on an even playing field. Race, class, gender, sexuality, disability, etc. These things will determine what doors are open to us and which ones, frankly, are closed or are stuck. I don't intend to ever suggest that we all have access to the same things. We definitely don't. I hope that these episodes get you thinking about what you do have access to or what your community members have access to, but an even playing field is just not what we're playing on. And three, while I may use certain pronouns to refer to figures in the cards, that doesn't mean that I think that card only belongs to that type of person. So while I may call the high priestess she, it's absolutely not energy that only women can encompass. All of the cards in the tarot belong to everybody. A lot of the spreads that I'll be covering in this series are ones that I've done previously, whose message I felt was strong and cohesive, and I wanted to share with the public. I don't often pull cards in specific placements, especially with 3-card spreads. I really just like to pull them, let them talk to each other while I extract the narrative that they have to tell me. So that will be the case today. I don't ever really feel called to do collective readings. Maybe that will change, but I just feel that unless we're talking about a specific circumstance in the world, like a world event, I just don't feel that collective readings ever really speak to me and are unlikely to speak to a large part of my audience, so I'm probably not going to do them. This message may not apply to you today, but maybe it's applied to you at some point. Maybe it will apply to you at some point in the future, and you may want to keep it in your back pocket. You may disagree with how I define some of these cards. That's totally fine. I often disagree with how tarot podcasters and book authors talk about cards, even if I love their writing style or other definitions that they've had for cards. And it's actually been quite beneficial for me to know how I disagree, because it really reinforces how I feel about a certain card. So take what makes sense to you, take what resonates with you, challenge to yourself, not in my comments. I don't really feel like arguing with strangers on the internet about tarot, what doesn't make sense to you, and leave with some grown perspective on tarot, I hope. Let's start with a reading that I'm going to call No Kings. It is the Tower, the Emperor reversed, and the Three of Cups. I remember the first time I saw Pamela Coleman-Smith's illustration of the Tower card, and it wasn't in a tarot deck, it wasn't on the internet. It was on my boyfriend at the time's forearm. I was 19 and he had just gotten this card tattooed on him. And I remember thinking that that was a little bit weird because, as far as I knew, he didn't read tarot and he didn't have more than a novel interest in the occult. So why would he get this tattooed on him? While I didn't know him to be a tarot reader, I did know him to be a card-carrying anarchist. He was anti-government, anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian. So when I saw this image tattooed on him, the message was loud and clear. It was about the fall of false kings, and in him getting it tattooed on him, he was celebrating that. Let's look at the image. We have a tower. It is being struck by lightning. There is a giant crown that is being ejected from the top. The tower is engulfed in flames, and we have two royal figures that are plummeting to their deaths. That has always been what this card has been about to me. Whenever I pull this card in a reading, this card, more than any other card, without fail, elicits some kind of a negative reaction from my client. They'll groan, they'll throw their head in their hands, they'll say, "Not the tower." And I know that conventional interpretation of this card often has to do with involuntary upheaval, ruin, the rug getting pulled out from underneath us and us having nothing that we can do about it. But this has always felt a little bit misguided to me. This card is rife with symbolism of the ruling class. Do we consider ourselves part of the ruling class? Like, does this really look like it's about you? To me, the Tower is about the fall of false rulers in our lives. People who we've put on pedestals, who have a level of power over us. Now, we can feel the effects of this kind of reckoning, right? If the company that we work for goes under, we're out of a job. If our abusive partner who we stay with because we're dependent on them leaves, we have a lot to figure out quickly. And if a teacher whose corrupt behavior is unearthed and we can no longer ethically learn from them, we feel a disruption in our practice and we may feel a little bit lost on how to continue. The Tower asks, what innately belongs to you that earned you those comforts that you're mourning in the first place that you can take with you elsewhere? What belongs to you that maybe you have been mistakenly thinking that you can't have without these other people? What are your personality traits? Who is your network? What are your credentials? What are things that you can take with you no matter where you go? This can be a warning to diversify our attention and not hang our hat in one place. I think that social media is a good example of impending tower energy. With censorship on the rise, with AI bots wiping out accounts without the discernment of the human brain, with algorithms that seem to work against us more and more every day, what once was an extension of our credibility and our identity kind of feels like visiting a dying mall now. And despite this, we still rely really heavily on it for work, connections, etc. If we are one of the unlucky many to wake up and find that our Instagram account has been deleted, it's devastating, especially if we're professionals and we use it in that way. We've lost contacts, we've lost footage of our work. It's not just social media, it is devastating. What will we do if this happens to us? Collect your important contacts, save things elsewhere. Maybe start that mailing list that you've been telling yourself that you were going to start. Maybe start your own platform, website. Or if this is a welcome cord cutting and social media is nothing more but a time suck to you, ask yourself how you're going to reclaim your time. Maybe this is just simply a celebration to you. These platforms get bought out and turned to shit all the time. What will you do when that happens? This is just one example. I'm sure you can think of an example that may feel more apt to your life, if not this. The Emperor Reversed serves as a reinforcement for the Tower. I think that for many of us who struggle with misdirected masculinity and authority, the Emperor can be a really hard card to be able to befriend or even see parts of ourselves in. He's certainly not the only masculine ruler in the tarot, but he feels a little bit less inviting to me than the kings of the court cards. The kings all have a suit that they harness, that they're able to direct their authority to, and without the suit, they're kind of just guys, just people. So to just very simplify some of the kings, the King of Swords is the ultimate truth teller. The King of Cups is a master at holding space. These are qualities that we can aspire to hold. The Emperor is just kind of the Emperor. He's stoic. He takes up space. He leads without any kind of qualifying quality. It's just not a very inspired place unless you simply get off on having authority, In this spread, he is inverted, and therefore I feel that he serves as kind of a zoomed in image of the royal subject that is plummeting to his death in the tower. They appear both upside down with their crowns intact. And therefore, I feel, again, that this is a reinforcement of the tower's interpretation as I explained it, the Emperor Reverse, that is. And therefore, again, I don't feel like this is necessarily something about the Querent's life that inherently belongs to them falling, but rather a false idol falling. And lastly, we have the Three of Cups. And I love that this joyous celebration is what we get when the dust from the fallen tower has settled. I feel that the tower falling wasn't circumstantial or accidental at all. In fact, I think that these three lit the match. I feel that the Three of Cups here are suggesting that the fall of oppressive structures in our lives is something that came to fruition through strength in numbers and a common goal. So often we're told that our impact is a drop in the bucket against the impact of the elite, and we could never offset the damage done by them. And while, yes, what we consider to be lavish and therefore wasteful pales in comparison to the daily realities of the elite, I disagree with the cynical take that nothing matters. I actually pulled this spread in November of 2025, which I thought was a very apt timing for this because here in New York City, we had just elected a Democratic Socialist mayor whose name was unheard of a year before, who was up against candidates that had storied histories serving the city and who were backed by very rich donors. And we had the largest voter turnout since 1969 in favor of this previously unknown person. And that was all done through grassroots campaigning. It wasn't done through tons of funding from the rich elite. The figures celebrate amongst a humble harvest, one that perhaps they've grown themselves. The fruits of their labor are not flashy, but I do believe them to be sustainable. One observation that I made about these two cards that I thought was really interesting with them next to each other in the context of this reading is that the figure in the foreground of the Three of Cups is wearing what appears to be an inverted version of what the Emperor wears. It's almost like this person decided that they wear the robe now. They took the king's robe, the emperor's robe, inverted it to invert its meaning, and has decided that they have power now. They have power over their life again. Even if the dismantling of oppressive structures in our life wasn't our own doing, the Three of Cups reminds us to take refuge in our community. Your friend who was just being polite but actually hated your shitty spouse would probably be elated to hear that they're not in the picture anymore and would love to support you through your transition out of that relationship. Your friends who never got to see you because your job was overworking you and expected you to be on call all the time will get to have some of your time back, and you'll find joy in company of your friends again. Your network who knows that you're so good at X skill, something that was maybe being underutilized at that job, will think of you when they see an opportunity that's best fit for you. Your creativity can now thrive in like minded individuals. You don't have to do anything alone. Most people don't really do anything alone. Even if you think that you do, you think you're a self starter, you probably still need somebody to set up the space where you do the work, or you need somebody to spread the work. So you don't have to go it alone. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on this first episode of Devil's Divination. I'm really excited to see how this grows, and I hope that you will hang out with me and watch that journey along with me. If you're interested in getting a reading with me, I offer them over Zoom, or if you're in the New York City area in person, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. My account is LEAHRAYEX. If you would like for me to read at your event, I'm also interested in hearing about that, so you can shoot me a DM there as well. Until next time, be well, raise hell, and I will see you on the next episode.